Hey, Gaybros.
Hey, Gabriel Jose.
Where are we today?
I'm in San Francisco. You're in Chicago. That's the sad state of affairs now.
Yeah, I had a feeling that we had to do something to spice our lives up. I almost had the feeling that we have been married to San Francisco and Chicago for too many years, and we need to add,
We're
like,
gonna meet in Vegas. We're gonna meet in Vegas.
you are dead to me.
Fine, Oklahoma City.
Yeah, we're discussing about it. It's interesting because it almost feels like it could be the only interesting option, Vegas, to meet up like between what? I would love to go to Denver, but I think that is not that midway from both of us, no? Or is it?
It would be about a 2.5 hour flight, and it's a 5 hour flight from you. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. 5 hour flight from me?
So I'm 5 hours from you.
Oh,
Denver's
yeah.
2.5 hours from me. So it would be relatively close. Maybe you would end up flying 3 hours, and I'd fly 2 hours and 15, something like that.
That's fine. Yeah. You can just pay for drinks for just balancing things out.
For sure. Pick it up to you.
Yeah. But in any case, in this distant session of our podcast, what do we watch?
We watched the 2012. I wouldn't call it a classic, but I would say that it's having a renaissance right now. The horror film Sinister.
Where did you see that it's having a renaissance?
Online, when I've been Googling it,
Yeah.
like this film didn't get the best reviews when it came out. It didn't get bad reviews. I think it has on Rotten Tomatoes like 65%. But when you Google it now, there's like all of these like modern blogs that are like, this is better than we thought. I'm not saying that's how I feel, but that's what I found online.
No. Okay. I didn't know that. I didn't do any search at that point.
It's kind of like Jennifer's Body, which was panned, and now it's becoming hugely popular. Hugely popular.
Maybe I should record about it. I don't think that I watched it.
We should add that to the to-be watch list for sure.
I don't know. The expression that you made on your face, it made me a bit hesitant about adding it. About like
Because
you
how
don't.
could you not watch Diablo Cody's first script after she won an Oscar?
Oh, that's right. I didn't watch this. Well, okay. Yeah, we can add it in any case. I had the feeling that I didn't, but now that you mentioned there is Diablo Cody.
Maybe because it stars Megan Fox. Maybe that just turned you off a little bit too much.
Yeah, I'm too gay for Megan Fox. I remember like that quote from someone that used to work with Michael Bay on the shooting of the Transformers movies, and he says like this woman is as dumb as a stone.
Yeah, there was a really bad point in time for the two of them.
Yeah.
But
Well, it was not Michael Bay. It was not Michael Bay. It was like someone, like someone from the crew, like working on set, and they were saying like, "You're so dumb," Similar. It wasn't as bad as Billy Wilder saying that Marilyn Monroe was as dumb as a rogue, but he said like something. I'm paraphrasing, but is that he did like something like pretty close to that when they were saying that they had to actually just like tell him all her lines because he couldn't memorize them.
Well, I mean, we all have our talents. Marilyn Monroe was looking great.
Yeah. I don't know if it's real or not because there's like many other people that's like she was so much into philosophy and metaphysics that she was really smart. She was, I don't know, like an agent on Earth. I don't know anything. But in any case, let's just move to the movie. The movie Sinister. This was your pick. Why did you pick it?
Because you said you wanted to watch it, and then I looked into it, and I was like, yeah, I have a thing for bad, mediocre, and great horror. Okay, I just have a thing for horror. I don't watch it that often, but when there's a pretty good horror film that comes along, I really enjoy it. I think Hereditary is one of the most recent horror films I really enjoyed. I know we disagree, but that's my type of film, just like human misery with a backdrop of horror. That's what I love.
And I remember that when you actually told me that, I think that Hereditary succeeds from the family drama perspective. The horror parts, I feel that they're a bit tacked on top of it. I think that we disagree on that part, but for me, they don't work that much. They almost feel like you're playing with the tropes of the genre. But the drama part is like just seeing Gabriel Byrne and Tony Collette. Tony Collette. Yeah, that we love. Just seeing them on those roles is like it works perfectly. Like the trauma of just like you just lost your girl in a very terrible accident. I thought that part like works pretty great, and it actually connects a bit with this. There is a bit more of a family drama and then horror.
Yeah, and there's something about the family drama where horror plays a little bit of like a lesser, I don't know, significant role. I don't know, because like Midsommar, I wasn't a huge fan of. I thought it was good, but it's not my type of horror. And then just side note, on the way back from seeing you in Chicago, I watched Knives Out on the plane.
Oh, what did you think?
Just for Toni Collette. No, I'd seen it before.
Oh,
I
okay.
just wanted to see her be a piece of shit human being again, and it was fantastic.
I think that everyone was a piece of shit of that movie instead of
Yes, but
Ana de
nobody
Armas.
does it as well as Toni Collette.
Yeah, so hilarious. I remember like even after watching Knives Out, and sorry for the tangential, I wanted to see a director's cut that it actually triplicated the amount of screen time that Toni Collette had. It's like the way of making this movie better is having more Toni Collette. Not because the rest of the cast didn't, not because of the rest of the cast didn't do a good job. It's because Toni Collette was incredible on every single scene.
I just had a merch idea for our podcast, a t-shirt that just says more Toni Collette.
That's what this world is, more Toni Collette, is that you can add her to anything, you know. And I think that someone used to think like us, because that's the reason why we had the United States of Tara. That is basically how you can make a show better with more Toni Collettes.
Let her play like 20 characters. Just let her do her thing.
Yeah. Exactly. Similar to Mars Attacks and Jack Nicholson. I think that I mentioned this, like Tim Burton asking him, is like, hey, do you mind doing 2 characters? I would do all of them. That would have been an amazing movie if he had done all the characters. It was a good movie.
It would have been.
Yeah. But in any case, this was your pick, so I think that I should summarize this movie. So this movie follows Ethan Hawke character that I don't remember his name anymore.
Wilson Oswald.
What a terrible name. He moves to a small village in the States. I think that they mentioned the state, but it doesn't really matter. And he's a true crime writer that is looking for his next big hit after having like an amazing first book and then 2 failed attempts. And he moves with his wife and his 2 kids. That they're supportive of his work, you know, at least is what it sounds, but they're a bit like regretting that they have to move again and just having to leave all their life behind and just chasing like grandeur again. So they actually move after actually lying to his wife. They do move to the house where a family murder took place and the little girl of that family disappeared. So he's going to be like writing about that murder, but the wife and the kids don't know that is where that family got murdered, in the backyard.
I want to be super clear though, because this is a point of contention with my husband. The wife said she didn't want to know where they were living, if it was related to a crime. He told her the literal answer to her question was no. I think
semantic.
that was totally okay in a relationship.
It was
Yes,
no,
it was semantic.
It was semantics bullshit, man. It was semantic bullshit. You know that Ethan Hawke knew that living in the house where the murder took place was worse than actually living in the house next to where the murder took place.
I'm sorry, but she said, are we living 2 doors down from a crime scene? He starts to answer, and she says, you know what? Whatever it is, I don't want to know. He's not obligated to say anything to her after she says, you know what? Don't answer that question. I don't want to know. Let's move on.
That's
We disagree.
bullshit. That's bullshit. I mean, because I felt it's like, look, we know that there's going to be like a bit fallout out of this. You know that there's going to be like big consequences of this, and it happened. But still, it's clear that he has a loving wife, willing to put up with pretty much everything, all kind of bullshit. Yeah, let's just say.
And basically, like a Bjork dancer in the dark sort of. She's so pure and good that she let herself into a big problem.
Yeah. So after moving there, he finds some recordings in the attic that supposed was not there because of the investigation that the police did. There was not supposed to be any kind of box. So someone went there and left some recordings, some 8mm recording that I forgot.
Super 8 recordings that I don't know about in Spain, but they were super calm here. You have one.
I have one. Is that this was one of the gifts for my birthday, and I actually was checking it where I was watching the movie, and I was thinking like this is probably one of the most common ones during the 60s, because it was an affordable model for families here in the States. And but at the same time I was thinking that so he found like recordings, like 8mm tapes that they go from the 60s to the 2000 to the teens, basically, of murders that they happened. In any case, he starts watching it, and they're like very gruesome murders that of whole families, like a car set on fire while people are in there, or people like just getting drowned into a pool. But there is no
horrific one for me, by the way. Was
the pool?
They were tied to the lawn chairs and they were dragged into a pool, and just that was horrific.
It's funny that I was watching this with my boyfriend, and he actually highlighted it. Like, look, I don't want to go into the nitpicking, but that car, if there were people burning in there, do you think that you would be like just moving in this kind of rhythmic way? You would be actually just being like a bit more like chaotic, And when they actually just drown the people on the pool, and we actually went back, is that when they're moving their feet like just fighting for their lives, they're like just doing like this.
Yeah, but if you look closely, because I noticed that too, their ankles are tied so tightly that that's all they can do.
I get that point that I talk is that, look, I think that they're not thinking about people watching it at home and just rewinding. It's like, oh my god, this is an horrific scene. It's like, wait, they didn't actually move their feet properly. But it's still a valid point. I just say that, look, this is horror. You have to apply just a tiny suspension of disbelief because there's going to be like way more stuff that is going to require it. So the movie moves forward. There starts to be like a bit more of a weird events. He finds, of course, after seeing like plenty of recordings of serial killings, instead of actually taking it to the police, he just keeps them. No, that's the normal thing that you do. Is that you don't report it. You just think about like your next big hit. And I have to say that there is like this kind of vague exposition at that point that I felt like pretty infuriated about. That he looks when he has like the police on the phone, he sees his best hit and he's like, no, I have to use this for my next book.
I don't disagree with you, but I will say that I was disappointed in myself to understand his motivations, because not only did he want to write a book that was he had the jump on the police, they didn't catch this, but also he had misled his wife and he couldn't go to her, and so I was like, okay, I get it, he's just a pussy, and
he's an asshole. He's a coward and an asshole. This is not
but
a
I
hero.
identified with him.
Okay. That's fine. This podcast is not about evaluating ourselves and our human value. It's not. This is about like evaluating a movie. It's like we are just judging something else because we don't want to look at ourselves. So from that perspective, is that this is not a hero. This is not you want to root for him and you want the best. You don't want him to die either, especially the family, because they are like completely innocent parties on this. Yeah, so little by little, the kids start like just having, we assume that visions of what happened there. They start like just painting in schools, like the family hanging from the tree, or like just having dreams about them, or talking even like with the ghosts of the little girl of the family, the one that disappeared.
And everything is written off that the kids sneak in and find the details about the case their dad is investigating. It's relatively good how they left things like, hey, did they really talk to the ghost? Yeah. Did they just find their dad's research? I was impressed. Yeah, I have to say that this is the second time only that I watched it. I think that those things, they work better the first time. The second time is like, okay, I know where this is going, so you're going to be like just finding like small gaps, or like already information to your face, from the beginning. Not that it's bad. I mean, I just think that this is entertainment. Cinema is entertainment. Horror is most of the time like just pure value entertainment. It's not about like just thinking about, hey, I'm going to be like making you change how you think about things. Except Ari Aster, that he has this obsession. I was just gonna say.
Yeah. Midsommar, for example, he tries to make a reflection about like how you think about family and the traumatic parts of family as hereditary. So I think that he tries to elevate it. That's a different topic. If you want, we will watch Hereditary and Midsommar. But in any case, let's just keep talking about this. In any case, of course, there is a ancient entity that basically feeds on the on kids, and then just making them.
He's called the Child Eater in Babylonian history, and I have to say, I study the gods of the Babylonians, so I was fascinated by that. Like, hey, let's go to the first city in the world and find what they were afraid of, and we're gonna bring it to 2012. I found that super interesting.
Yeah, no, that's true. I appreciate when they. Was this like a real myth?
No, but there was a real god of. Was it Corinthia? I don't know. There was an ancient god that was the god of child sacrifice, and so they claimed that. I can't remember the name of the deity in the film. That he was the brother of this real bull
yeah, well, doesn't matter. They call him Mr. Boogie nowadays.
So they connected it to real mythology as a sibling to an existing god, but he didn't exist anywhere else. Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. I think that they do. Albeit the movie doesn't focus too much on that part. I think that for just being a secondary kind of thing about like, oh, where is this coming from? They still do a decent job. It's like other movies, they would actually just over-index on this part and just trying to make more lore and reality and just showing you random books, random pictures. I'm like, oh my god, the horror across history. They only do it, I think, that once on this case. When he's doing the investigation, I think there is a bit more of a focus on it's like, why is this happening?
Do you know where the writer got the idea for this?
No, do you?
Yes, he had a nightmare the night after watching The Ring, and he wrote this script.
That's cool, actually.
It is cool, right? This is a super fucked up dream. Like, I would have been horrified.
Yeah, but it actually sounds like a dream, because something that I found fascinating of this movie is that there is a part that it feels more like a thriller. It will feel like a David Fincher thriller. Of course, this is not David Fincher directing it, but I would like to see a David Fincher directed version of this. But it's a bit more about like, okay, there is a murder, and there is like a true crime, a story that you think that is a true crime. Is what he actually thinks that there is like a human person driving these sacrifices, or maybe it's a cult that is driving this. It's like until things don't get like really weird when he starts having the visions about seeing previous kids running around the house. He doesn't really feel like that's the explanation.
I will say that's, for me, one of the film's greatest successes is that for 60, maybe 70% of the film, these weird things are happening. Ethan Hawke's getting deeper and deeper into this investigation. The filmmakers play very well with, is this reality? Is this paranoia? Or is there something actually paranormal about this, which I enjoyed a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that. Similar to Vertigo, for example. Yeah. There's that we were discussing if it was like real or not, and at the end is that we were discussing this. Okay, they try to make you believe that. In this case, it's a bit more like they try to make you believe that maybe it's real, and they say, oh, it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And that worked
it's
for
the
me.
other way around. Yeah. I would say that I would have appreciated if they hadn't done the part of the little girl seeing the previous girl that used to live on the house and just painting the ghost. I would prefer like leaving that part out. It's like I think that's a trope that is extremely overused about like kids see the ghosts, but no one else.
I was incredibly disappointed by I think it's the first night Ethan Hawke is convinced there's somebody in the house, and he walks around the dark house with a bat, and there's these ghost children dancing and running.
Oh, you were disappointed?
I was. Maybe it's just because since 2012 we've seen that before, but I was like, first off, what's the point of these ghosts no one can see running and hiding from a human? Like, none of this makes sense. Yeah. None of it's scary. This is a trope they wanted to use that it does nothing for me.
Yeah, and besides the rule that they have, because at the end there is a rule to this, almost like if it was a Christopher Nolan movie, is that they are not going to die. Is that nothing is bad going to happen to them until they move. They could live the rest of their lives happily on that house. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. I hesitate there because I found the idea that he discovered it was 5 families, right? 5 families that had been murdered, everyone in their family in these horrific ways, filmed except
everyone except one, yeah. The youngest child.
So I found incredibly fascinating the idea of discovering these series of murders that are connected that nobody saw the connection before, especially since I don't know if you saw the news this morning, but they identified the Zodiac killer for the first time ever.
Oh no.
So I read that this morning and then I watched the film, so I was thinking Zodiac the film, Zodiac killer, and I thought this is super fascinating, then to add a little bit of a cult and then to add a little bit of just this like wavering back and forth about paranormal or not, because it's interesting. Ethan Hawke's character, he doesn't believe in paranormal shit at all until he witnesses it.
Yeah.
And he's kind of partnered by this deputy who's helping him, who's like completely, he doesn't believe in the paranormal, he doesn't believe in any of this. It's kind of like they showed this contrast between this man losing his mind and this man of law who's like very logistical. He has a degree in forensic science. I enjoyed these contrasts throughout the film. But then ultimately where the film ends up is a little bit disappointing. And I'll say that from like an enjoyment perspective, I really enjoyed this film. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was entertaining. I immediately wanted to watch Sinister 2. But then from a film theory perspective, I thought you just added some shiny tricks on 50 years of tropes.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that. Is that one of the things that I was analyzing, because this was not my first time. I knew all the jump scares and everything, so most of the time I was just looking at my boyfriend and like, oh, are you getting scared? But there were like several things that I thought like this is cool, but at the same time it's a coat of paint over stuff that we already know and we have already seen like many times.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, so I appreciate the part about like there is a lot of family drama. It actually takes like 40 minutes probably. You see like the opening that is super disturbing about like the family getting hung in slow motion. I found it, as we didn't know anything about the movie, I found it like, oh my god, this is super creepy,
I have to say, it's about 1 minute long. You showed it to me in Chicago. I found it disturbing. When I saw the film and I watched it today, I never saw the hand. It's not a hand saw, it's like a reaching saw. Yeah. I didn't see it when you showed it to me, and it made the whole thing so much creepier.
Yeah.
Like there are glimpses of these short Super 8 like films that are genuinely horrifying. Genuinely. Yeah. There's like an artistic vision there.
Yeah.
Cohesively, it doesn't rise above this.
Well, I mean, I think that they actually know what is going to be resonating with the American audience. Is that when you think about these Super 8s, you're going to be like thinking about happy memories, and they actually play with like you saw happy memories, and then you saw the contrast of something completely terrible. And you see it in the comfort of your house, and you know that it's related to your house. So I think that they play with like, hey, this is something that is like just in shock with what we think about like this American happy life. So I think that is.
I will say like.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that each of the films that had these very ironic titles, like Pool Party, where everyone drowned.
Barbecue.
The films, and correct me if I'm wrong, they start out with very happy family moments in the Super 8. They were actually filmed in Super 8.
Yep.
And then it switches to these terrifically dark and grisly murder scenes. And I remember growing up watching at my grandparents, like these bucolic videos of my father and my aunts and uncles swimming in the swimming pool, and like it really touched home. It really did.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like I didn't grow up with that, but at the same time, I could resonate with the horror about like the contrast of this is a normal video. This is the video that everyone would saw. The only difference is that they are not looking at the camera and saying hi or anything. It's like it's clear that someone is recording that. And I found like the appearances of the Mr. Boogie on the recordings, how they build up from it's just a weird thing that is there to oh my god, it lives there, I feel like there is a bit of a pastiche of different ideas, of different horror topics, about like it takes over the kids, it actually manipulates the kids, it lives in images, there are like many kind of different directions that is like, okay, I get it, each one of these things could have been like its own evil creature in a different horror movie, but you combine like several things. It's good. For me, it works because it actually feels, as you said, it feels like a dream. In a dream is that there are like very weird logics that they make partial sense. And I feel like someone had the feeling about like, oh look, I actually imagined that I was with my family living here. Weird stuff started happening. My kids started behaving in a weird way, and then we move away, and actually, like our younger kid was about to murder us. And just imagine that, and from that, like building. Now, I have to say something. What did you think? Sorry, I need to ask this before I forget. What did you think about like the elder sibling having these night horrors?
Honestly, I bought into it because from the beginning, even though they played with the idea supernatural or not, I suspected there was a supernatural element, and I appreciated. So the first time you see the older boy have a night terror, he comes out of a moving box and bends over backwards, which I thought that's the ring, even before I knew it was inspired by the ring. So I appreciated because I thought, yeah, there's something fucked up going on here, and he is basically the canary in the coal mine to be like, what the fuck, guys?
Yep.
And the parents are so stupid, they don't try to help anything. I was okay with that.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I remember like this. The biggest scare that I had on this movie, the first time that I watched it, was like the kid coming out of the box. And I thought that like, oh my god. Yeah, there is going to be more, because we just started like he comes out in a very surreal way. It's not about like night horror, it's about like night nightmare. You know, it's like your dreams are directed by Wes Craven, basically.
Imagine the woman coming out of the TV in the ring, except a very young boy doing that backwards. So he's on his back and he reaches, and it's super disturbing to see his body forward. It's awful. Yeah,
and he starts screaming, and Ethan Hawke, instead of being horrified, is like, oh my god, something is happening with him, I need to help him. That is like, wait, what? Is that this is the point? I don't mind if I'm like the father or not. I'm going to be like burying this kid to death.
But again, that's playing with that like supernatural versus not supernatural, and the dad's reaction was like, okay, my son has a history of night terrors, this is normal, we're gonna wake him up.
Yeah, I mean, for me as an audience, it was a bit more like, what the heck? What the heck? Your kid is possessed. Just finish this problem. Just bury him to death. I mean, but that's because it's the second time that I watched it, so for me that felt a bit more cheap. That felt like, I know that this doesn't have anything to do with the story itself. You know, it's just a way of just building towards like, oh, this may not be supernatural, and this is just about the trauma that you're creating your kids because of what you're doing. So I felt that this is an interesting horror movie from the perspective that it actually just tries to build up like way more family drama. As I was saying, like the first 40 minutes, besides the opening, there is no horror in it. There is only like just insinuations and build up, but there is no jump scares. Is that they actually found the videos, but the videos could actually be a serial killer that is just harassing them.
Yeah, they just leave you guessing, which I really enjoyed 100%. What did you think about, I'm going to say twist in quotation marks, I'm just going to tell you, I assumed Ethan Hawke was going to kill all his entire family. That's what I thought was going to happen. But then at the very end, there's the switch, and you find out who kills the family. I don't know if we want to say it. It's been 9 years. I appreciate it.
What I would say... Okay. What I would say, actually, as I was saying earlier, is like there is a rule behind all these murders. You know, I would say that at this point, do you think that people should watch this without getting into the score? If you like horror.
I would say if you like horror, this is an above average horror film. I would call it a slightly below average normal film.
Yeah, no, that's completely fine. I think that it's an entertaining horror movie. It's like if you're looking...
Exactly, very entertaining.
We are recording this in October, it's horror month everywhere. I don't know why, because Halloween is just a single day, but let's just make the whole month about horror movies. Watch it if you haven't. Now, moving into the spoiler territory. So what was the twist? You were asking me if I bought into the twist.
I didn't know if you wanted me to spoil it or for you to spoil it. So
you can.
The twist is when Ethan Hawke finally, he decides there's something supernatural at this house. They need to move back home because they were unable to sell their original house, which was a fucking mansion. And I don't know why
holy
they had
shit.
to be that was so weird.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like a reminder of his past life. They run away from the town because it's so scary. They move into their home. He had burned the tapes. The tapes mysteriously appeared in his new attic with a new ending to all of them. And with this new ending, he came to the understanding that every family that was murdered, that one child that was missing, that everyone thought was kidnapped, that was the child committing the murder. And you think, no way is Ethan Hawke's super sweet little girl going to do that. And then she does it. She poisons her parents and she cuts them up with an axe, and then she, like the other missing children and the evil Babylonian deity, they disappear into the Super 8 film. I would say that the ending I liked the murder of Ethan Hawke and his wife, but from that point on, it was a little messy with all of the little kids walking down the hall and looking upset, and then him walking into the film. But overall, it was a twist I didn't expect, and it was entertaining.
Yeah, I was expecting the first. I mean, of course, this time I was expecting it. I knew that it was coming. But the first time I was expecting something like that. You know, is that when they actually emphasize several times, like, looking at the camera, and we never found the kid. And you see like the kids like running around. It's like it almost feels like it's a Hamelin. I say like Hamelin piper. The piper.
Piper.
The Pied Piper, you know, that is that he's going to be like just
leading the kids away.
Yep, exactly, and just after making them murder their family. So, and besides that, is like in all of the murders, they are immobilized, all the families.
Yeah, they're completely tied up, locked down, drugged, asleep, whatever.
Yeah. So from that perspective, it was a bit of a, okay. Yeah, I understand that it's like after you see the reveal, after Ethan Hawke realizes how like, oh my god, it's the kid, and he just falls to the ground, is that, yeah, that takes a bit too long, you know? I don't think that it detracts too much. You know, I think that it's like at that point the shock value disappears 1 second later. But is that they like to stretch it for 3 or 4 minutes, and I feel like that it doesn't matter. The rest of the kids, they are not characters.
Like I said, the ending of the film is way too long, but when he realizes that he's been poisoned by his daughter, and then he just basically waits to be murdered, I thought that was an interesting twist. Maybe I'm stupid and everyone else saw it coming, but after that, I was like, you should have ended the film right when the axe came down on Ethan Hawke. That's it. There should have been no more.
Yeah. And the point about like she showing the camera, you know, like how she's recording, I just feel it's like, are you? And they're just doing like this. I don't know. I just feel it's like, sure, you need to close the circle of this story, but it's not giving me anything anymore. You know, it's like just, as you said, like just dropping the axe is enough, and maybe just painting it. I would
argue it would have been more interesting to leave more questions unanswered than answered. Like, just make us think, what the fuck is going to be in Sinister 2? Don't explain everything away.
And I think that if I recall correctly, that was the problem of Sinister 2. That is like, how are you going to be like making this so interesting where you already gave away like all the tricks that they have in here? And I think that the gist on the second one is that they are twins.
No,
they're twins.
I don't want to hear.
All right. Sorry.
Probably gonna watch it.
Just watch it. I think that this is entertaining and it's a bit smarter than average, you know. But it's once again, it's just a coat of paint. It can actually, it could be great. I think that it could be, and the problem is that I think that if you actually push too much for the family drama and development of characters, you end up being hereditary. That is, that then it actually feels like the horror is attached to this, while on this movie what it feels is like the drama is attached to the horror.
Yeah, I can see that completely, which is why Hereditary works better for me.
As family drama, yeah, it does for me. As horror, I think that this one works a bit better. I'm not saying that it works perfectly.
I just think I would rather believe in the horror of family trauma compared to the horror of ancient Babylonian gods.
Okay, another
one I can relate more.
Okay, another spoiler. Now about Hereditary. So you're telling me that you believe that it's like, oh well, actually the family was part of a covenant for many, many, many generations, but the mother didn't know about it.
In Hereditary?
Yeah.
No, I think all the occultish stuff we saw in Hereditary was a manifestation of family trauma, which is very real.
Yeah. I mean, but it's like it went beyond like just being like a metaphor, for it. It actually just turned into reality because even until the end, I was just waiting. It's like, well, maybe they're just making this up. Maybe it's like a way of just making a point. It's like, no, they're getting murdered.
I think we need to watch Hereditary because this is a very interesting question. I would like an answer.
Do you remember Tony Collette like just flying to the ceiling and then just catching fire?
I do, and I remember the kids climbing the treehouse and there being all the witches. It's like super fucked up, but for me it was all a metaphor for like, what the fuck does our family do to us? This is what our family does to us.
What? Look, it's like, of course, if you actually want to remove like that part, is what I was telling you. It's like, if we remove all the supernatural, I think that there is a really good movie. But when it actually commits to, hey, this is not madness about like how family trauma can actually change you, it's like, then it's actually using those tropes for just shock value.
And this is why we should rewatch it, because we've both seen it. We have different perspectives. I would like to rediscuss this with you at some point. Not now, but it is fine. It's very spooky month. This European ass just judged me so hard.
No. There are more weeks. I'm not going to be like changing my pick. Okay, man. Should we go over the questions?
Let's do it.
Right. Will you watch it again?
Yeah. This was a good 4 horror film. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. I agree. I think that this is a movie that is, I mean, of course you're not going to have like the same shock value if you watch it again, but I think that is decent. Let's just leave it at that. So next one, would you recommend it?
Yeah. I mean, if somebody said, "Hey, what's a good horror film I can watch with Ethan Hawke?"
It has to have Ethan Hawke, so just be careful with what you choose. Yeah, I think that I actually recommended it to you, and I think that you were not the first person that I recommended it to. I always feel like, this is a bit more elevated. If you like horror, I wouldn't recommend it to my parents, but I think that to anyone around our age or younger, is that, yeah, they're going to be absolutely fine with this. Would you remember it?
I think I'm gonna lose a lot of the specifics. I will remember that I like this film, so I would say yes. I'll remember some things about it.
Gotcha. Yeah, for me, I remember most of it. I remember like the kid coming out of the box. I remember that he was a writer, that he was like going to be like writing something about the house that they move in. I knew also the rule about like they only get murdered once that they move to a new house, and it's going to be the kid. And I remember that it was like a creature, and I remember like the video where the creature started like just moving his head and looks at him and goes away.
Ethan Hawke's laptop. Yep.
Yeah. That I remember like, oh, how scary! But this time I was like, every single time that it was on the screen, I was waiting. It's like, is this the scene where he moved? Okay. Is there anything artistic about it?
Fuck. I think I might say no on this. It's pretty standard fare for a horror film with a few new flashy tricks, but I would never say this is artistically impressive. Okay, let me take that back. I will say the films that they shot on the actual Super 8, that was really impressive. It really disturbed me when it shouldn't have. So yes, I would say that.
Yeah, I was exactly going to say yes, only for that part, because that part is the thing that is genuinely creepy. And making something genuinely creepy requires understanding what resonates. Maybe you show it to someone, from, I don't know, Turkey, and they're going to say, what the fuck? But if you actually grew up with American movies and just having like the Wonder Years or stuff like that, that is like, that this is a resonance, is like how he manipulated that image. And he did it like pretty well, as you said. It's like it actually resonates with other videos that you have seen in the past.
And the fact that they chose to do it on Super 8 film, like he could have so easily done it digitally, so he could zoom in, like accentuate things. He really made these horrific scenes work in a way that only works with the like clarity of Super 8. How hard is that? It must be super difficult.
Yeah, but I mean, then when he actually records it and move it to the computer, they start like just smoothing it out and stuff like that. That is like, this is a bit cheaper now,
And what do they do? Like define.
Define. Yeah, I don't have a MacBook. Yeah, I don't have a MacBook, so maybe that's something that I'm missing. I could see like all the hidden like deities, like cruel deities, around me. And maybe I'm missing that. Maybe that's what you guys that have iPhones, in the audience, if anyone has an iPhone, maybe that's what they're getting. Maybe I should be paying those $1,000 for getting that. Okay, next one. Is it a timeless piece?
I'm gonna say yes. I was a little annoyed that when they moved into the house and the wife's like, this isn't the address of a crime scene, right? Like, she could have fucking Googled that. Like, are we pretending technology doesn't exist?
That's lazy. Let's just leave it as lazy. Yeah.
Besides that, I think it's a timeless piece, yes.
Yeah, I think that they play with something else. They didn't abuse of it, but they play with the horror of kids doing something terrible. Not at the level that Haneke did with the White Ribbon, or the Childs of the
Video.
Or Vinny's Video. Yeah. God, that movie. Yeah, I found that movie like way more disturbing than the White Ribbon. And or like the Kids of the Cornfield or whatever it's called. You remember?
Children of the Corn?
Children of the Corn, yeah, that one. There is a bit more about like you don't assume that a kid is capable of the worst. And I think that actually resonates with American audience. And maybe it's because I'm not American. The first time that I watch it is like, what is a kid? That is like you don't expect a kid being capable of that, and that's like shock value of, oh my god, it was the kid all alone. It was possessed. So I think that it's timely because it actually plays with one of the timeless fears that we have in society about like a kid cannot do something wrong, and even at this
maybe
point,
the most pure and innocent member of society is actually the worst.
Yep.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I think that it's like, yeah, it's timeless. I'm pretty sure that 50 years in the future, the Western first world culture is still going to be like that.
Horrified that maybe our sweetest, youngest are going to be the worst of our society.
The ones that they do Fortnite dances on TikTok, that they're capable of murder. For just getting your credit card, for just paying for those sweet battle passes on Fortnite.
I do have to say, I was driving through the Tenderloin yesterday, and the Tenderloin is awful. It's full of junkies. There's needles, drugs everywhere. And then there are these tiny parks just for children, and the parks are so clean. And so, they have the best equipped playgrounds.
But you know why? Because they have cars in the front, just checking that only families with kids go in.
Right, but it struck me as, why do all of us adults have to live with all of this garbage and we keep this space for kids super clean? They're not pure. They're not cleaner. They commit murders. They incite ancient gods.
Okay. If you look at the logic of horror movies, yeah, they are the fucking worst.
Exactly.
They are the fucking worst.
You don't deserve that clean park, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, it should be actually covered with all the syringes and human feces that we have to avoid on the street. That's with that logic, yeah, that's fair. Sure. Yeah, let's just leave it like that. Is that you only miss just adding breathers to hold that evaluation of the situation. But yeah, could you turn this into a TV show?
No, I think the what was a success for this film, it was really because it was short, succinct. It didn't try and drag it out. I would not extend this at all unless it was into Sinister 2, which I will watch tonight.
That's completely fair, because if you didn't watch Sinister 2 back then, it's because it was not out yet. So we had to wait for 6 months or something, because I think that it was announced, and everyone said exactly that this was a bit more of a cold hit, that in the future we're going to be looking back at this and say that, hey, it wasn't that bad, and we went to watch it without knowing anything about it.
There was some New York Times clip that was nobody put any thought into this. They just saw Sinister was successful and released a sequel as fast as possible.
Yeah, that's the problem with the second one. I think that they could have done something. I think that they shouldn't have done a sequel, just to begin with, but they could have done something a bit better. You'll see, and you will probably agree with me. I wouldn't turn it into a TV show, honestly. I could see, I don't know, did you watch The Haunting of the Hill House on Netflix?
Yes.
That was a bit more of family drama with horror. and I think that it
And I
worked.
did enjoy it. It was
Yeah.
super messy, but I liked it.
Yeah, I think that it worked better, from the perspective. Let's develop like a bit more the drama and just have it like a bit more self-contained parts of the character on each one of them, and just talking about like the personal horrors and how the house amplifies that, because none of them was perfect, let's say. So I think that family drama mix up with horror could work on TV. I don't know about this one. I don't think that I would do like a TV show of this one, because the thing is like there is
I
a
don't see
twist.
6 or 8 hours of content from this. Not at all.
Yeah, I think that this, as you said, is like a good story about like, let's just resolve this, an hour and a half or 100 minutes, and let's move on with our lives. Do you think that this movie could have been better?
The answer is yes. I'm not an expert in horror at all, but I feel like there were so many tropes and cliches that they could have avoided that and had a more interesting, I don't know, like engagement with the audience where they kept us guessing. It was very, very effective with the tension and the horror, but there were some scenes where I was so bored because I'm like, I've seen this 50 times already.
Yeah, okay, you have actually changed my mind. I was going to say that it was not possible to make this better, because of the limitations of the horror genre. But you are right, that is like the part about like the girl seeing the ghost of the little girl. I think that it was like completely unneeded. That part, and it's not too long, but it's like, what are you adding here? Is that you're just using the same resource, and it actually gives away that there is a paranormal entity here.
And you can tell the director is so proud of that scene where the family of 4 is hanged on a tree, and it's a beautiful, disturbing shot. But did we need to see it repeated
3 times.
Over and over? The daughter painted it, the kid drew it on a school blackboard. Like, we never stopped seeing it. Show the shocking image one time, let us think about it in our brains, and move on to some other horrific thought.
But I think that they didn't have like enough, enough horrific thoughts for actually doing this. They had and actually I think that a potential way of doing this better is not playing all the films at the same time.
All the what?
All the films at the same time. If they actually have like just play once and then just dosifying that horror, and then just giving like more hints, I think they would have worked better. But when you actually see all those films at the beginning, it's just like, okay.
I was honestly very confused. I thought, is this man just torturing the same family over and over again in different ways? I was like, what is happening? It was confusing in the beginning, for sure.
Yeah, but at the same time, they give you the year, and they also, you see that they're like different people and different locations.
Yes, but some of us film goers don't pay attention to details like that.
But you're
They just
not.
want everything spelled out.
Yeah, okay, but you're not the average. You're not the average moviegoer.
I am. That's my biggest secret.
Okay. Alright, so we scored this,
We should.
and this was your pick, so I have to score it first, I think.
You did. And if you started out the conversation with a different score, let me know.
No, actually, I'm going to be like keeping my original score. My original score is a 6, and I'm keeping a 6. I think that is a good horror movie. I was trying to debate if this was a good movie for going to 7 or a good horror movie, and I feel like the family drama, it didn't actually result into something, and at the end it feels like a bit more of an elaborated trope.
I started out with a 6, and based on our conversation, I went up to a 6.5, but only because of the awareness that I so rarely come across horror films that I just find entertaining and engaging. It's been a long time since I've seen a film that I enjoyed. It's been a long time since I found a horror film I enjoyed as much. So there's this caveat, like this is as a film and as a horror film, those are two different things.
Yeah. No, and I completely understand it, because it was also like in between with the 6.5, but at the end of the day, it's like if I think about the end result, this was not the first time for me for seeing it, and I felt like it felt a bit more watered down from what I remember. What I remember, it was like, wow, it it was good. I think that I told you it's like this. I felt like this was a good movie, and I feel like this was a good, entertaining horror movie.
Yeah, I think you have to flip the adjective from good to entertaining for horror. This isn't a good film, it's an entertaining horror film.
Yeah. I mean, it just keeps you, on your seat. It's not Zodiac, for example. It's not. I don't know. Did you watch Conjuring? The Conjuring?
Is that with Patrick Wilson and? Yes, I saw 1 and 2.
Yeah, I thought that the first one it played all the tropes. There is not anything there that is not a trope, but the build-up of the suspense and the jump scares, they were pretty well made.
I agree. Yeah.
It was not that it's a really good movie, but it's a really good horror movie about like what it's trying to do.
And that's where the skill differs.
Correct. It's a bit more like, well,
like,
you still
how does Sinister compare to There Will Be Blood? Is it pretty close? The same?
Are you just comparing Danny Day-Lewis with Ethan Hawke?
Yep, that's the first Danny Day-Lewis film I can think of.
Okay, or is Danny Day-Lewis compared with the kid on the box?
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
The long hair and everything,
it's the same.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like I wish that I could have seen Danny Day-Lewis just coming out of a box in a Paul Verhoeven movie and screaming. I spent 2 years practicing for this. I'm a method actor, so I actually live in a box, in an Amazon box for those 2 years.
Scaring everyone that walks by, everyone.
In the streets of the Tenderloin. I spent like 2 years just doing that, like living there and just screaming at the kids when they were passing by. Anything else to say about Sinister?
Overall, I don't think it's a great film, but it was very entertaining. I thank you for recommending it. Even though this was my pick, I wouldn't have paid attention to this film unless you recommended it, and I'm super happy I did.
Yeah. So, thank you so much for appreciating it. I wasn't like completely sure, and when I watched it, I was like, is he going to enjoy it at least? I wasn't like completely sure.
I did enjoy it, yes.
That's great. So for next week, as now is my pick, we discussed it before the podcast. I'm going to keep the selection up where we talk quite a bit about other movies today. But I have the feeling that if we don't watch this movie now, and if it's not as good as we think that it could potentially be, it may actually be completely forgotten, and we will never watch it. That's my feeling. And the movie is called Lamb. That is an A24 horror movie, an Icelandic horror movie about a family that they have a half lamb, half human kid.
I have to say, based on the cast and based on the trailer, which gives away nothing, I am so excited about this movie. I'm so excited you want to watch it. So
yeah. No, I watched the trailer a couple of times on cinema, and it was like, I need to watch this. It can be good, it can be terrible, it can be like just a fail attempt, but I don't know.
I have
like,
to know.
I have to know what this exactly. Is. It may be like one of those things that is like the trailer was significantly better than the movie, or maybe this is like another situation like Pig, that you actually watch the trailers like you think they're going to be like watching a movie and then you watch like something completely different, but it's still good. I have no idea. Maybe it's a musical.
I think this was like a film festival, like awards darling.
Yeah, it was like a certain regard in Cannes.
I can? Oh, yeah, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah, so I think that it may be at least interesting and given for a good podcast. Anything else to say about Sinister?
That's it for me.
For me, if you got to this point and you haven't watched it, I think that it's still okay to watch it.
Watch it if you want to be entertained for 2 hours. That's it.
And if you tolerate horror, if you don't tolerate horror, just move on with your life. This is not going to be like changing your perspective.
Or watch First Reformed if you really want to see Ethan Hawke be tortured.
But then you have to watch a fourth Thirds movie. I'm just saying
there are choices when it comes to Ethan Hawke horror. You don't have to watch this.
Okay, that's fair. That's a fair point. Or you can watch Boyhood. That is not horror, but it lasts 3 hours, and you're going to wish that it was horror or entertaining. Yeah. Alright. So to everyone out there listening to us, anything that we have to say?
Just wash your hands, guys. It's not over.
Yeah, it just keeps going like a horror movie. Okay, bye.